Okay, in this video, we're going to go over how to do the wall charting. I'm going to assume that your job information is already populated with your job details, northing, easting, lat longs, any magnetics you want, as well as target information. The way to do a wall chart is to either go to the wall chart tab down here or click the wall chart function up here. It'll take you to the wall chart tab. You'll see two areas. One is the white area. This is going to be your print area. This is what's actually going to print whenever we print the page. The gray area, you can add a chart out here, but it's not going to print. So you can add as many charts as you want. This gray area is huge. Use the gray area for your working charts. So if you need some blow-up plots just for some daily activities that you don't want to send into the office, put them out here in this gray area and keep this white area clean for your daily prints to go back into the office. The way that you set this print area is to go to the wall chart canvas. That'll bring up the options for where you're going to set the wall charting. You can either do landscape or portrait. Set the size to whatever you like. I use ISO B3. That's a 13 by 20 inch setting. The ISO B0 is much larger, or you can set it to letter if you want to do letter. 600 DPI is a good one to use. I just use this one as the default. Click OK. The white area is going to be set appropriately. You'll see the inch marks over here. Each one of these squares is 1 inch by 1 inch if you do not change the scaling. Now that we've got our wall chart canvas defined, the next thing we want to do is go to Add Charts to add our charts. You'll see several options on here: vertical section, horizontal, and custom. I use the quick adds almost exclusively. If you click down here, you'll see you can have some templates, the well information, target, section details. You can add a ladder plot, several different headings, a mag compass, and then you have your charts. These are at scaling, so this is a plan chart at a scaling of 1 to 50, plan chart at 1 to 100 scaling, and so forth. Scroll down, you'll have a vertical section chart at 1 to 200, 1 to 500, 1 to 1000, and so forth. Here we have, if you want to add the entire curve, you can add that one, or you can add just a target plot. That's going to zoom in on the target. You can play around with these to get a feel for what they do. Make sure that you've got some actual data, otherwise it's not going to be able to plot. If you try plotting in an empty job file, it's just going to throw up some weird plots. So make sure you put some data in there before you try this. Right now, I'm going to go ahead and build the wall plot. I'm not going to add the template. I'm going to do these one at a time. The first thing I'm going to do is add a job heading. I like job heading number 2. Play around with these, see which one you like. Everything is going to be added in the upper left-hand corner of the wall chart area. If you hold the Alt key down, it will snap this to grid. So when you're moving it around, it will line it up very nicely. So see how when I move it, I'm not holding the Alt key down now, it's not snapping. But if I hold the Alt key down, see how it snaps it to that grid? It lines it up very nicely. That allows you to make a nice crisp wall plot by holding the Alt key, the ALT key. Next thing I want to add is target information. Add the target. Select it. Move it around. If I hold the Alt key, it's going to snap it to that grid. Zoom in a little bit so you can kind of see. There's my target information. Now I'm going to add the section details. The only section details that are going to be added are the ones that have comments. So you'll see here, I've only got several points. If we look at the actual curve, it's going to be added for whichever curve is active. So whenever you add section details, it's going to be this active curve. If there's multiple curves, make sure the one you want to focus on is the one that's active. It only adds these points that have comments. If there's no comment for these points, they're not added in that section detail. So make sure you add comments, even if it's just a dot, if you want it to show up in your section details. If you highlight a picture, you can use the arrow keys to move it around. You cannot do this with a chart, but you can do it with these pictures. If you want to get rid of it, you just select it, delete. If you want it to come back, you can hit Control-Z, delete, or you can go to the undo function. undo. Now I'm going to add my mag compass. Now I have a decent heading at the top of my job to begin adding my plots. Scroll down, let's add a plan view of 1 to 200. Drag this over here. To drag a chart, you need to select in the white area. Don't select in this area because you can't drag. You'll notice too, when I select in this area, if you look down here, it's displaying the distance. So I can get a distance, I click on this point, it'll tell me the distance and angle to this point. Not very useful on this particular chart because I'm not zoomed in, but if I zoomed in, it could be very useful to add to see that distance function on the chart. Next thing I'm going to add is a vertical section of 1 to 500. The final thing I'm going to add is a target plot. I'm going to scroll down here, plan target at a scaling of 1 to 20. See how these are overlaid? Everything's going to be added in the upper left-hand corner of this chart, and I move it around to fit. If I want it to be in a different order, so let's say this chart is in front of this picture, I simply select the thing that I want to be in front, right-click, and say bring to front. Now it's going to be on top of this chart. You can select the chart details of the chart to move them around to fit. To resize it, you select the chart, select the corner, and you resize by width. See how it automatically resizes the length? That's in order to maintain squaring. So each one of these grids is square. So if I resize it by length, see, it doesn't really resize it. But if I resize it by width, it'll resize both. That's the snap function. Now I want to lay out my charts to fit like I want them to. See here, I want these to be in front, so I just right-click this chart and say send to back. Now these are going to be overlaid on top. In this case, my vertical section, I can't see my vertical section width down here. So if I right-click on the axis here, format axis, I'm going to say horizontal axis crosses at maximum value and close. Now my vertical section details are down here. These are just standard Excel charts with some additional functionality, so you can format these like you would any Excel chart. Resize the width here. Set my target. Resize this. You'll notice too that it's showing the comments. In order to show the comments, I go to Format Charts. I can select the chart as well as the grid lines, hard lines if there are any, and each target. So let's say I want my target number 1. Instead of being blue thin line, I want it to be a red thick dashed line. So now I have a red thick dashed line for my target. Let's change this back to dot. I like dot. You can do the same thing with your curves. If you go to your curve, you have some additional functionalities. I can show and hide comments. So here I have this function of showing and hiding them. Update chart, comments go away. Click it, update charts, comments are shown. I can show the points. Now it shows each point. If I don't want to show every point, I can show the points just every 5 points. Update chart. Now it only shows it every 5 points. I can also show the TBD. Now it's showing the TBD as well as the comments on every 5 points. So I have a very nice detailed plot that I can go in and continue formatting. I'm not going to show the points or the TBD. That tends to clutter up the plot. Just the comments. In order to move the comments, I just highlight them, move them around, and let's say I don't want to see this particular comment, just highlight it and hit delete. If I want to undo that, I just hit undo. complete. You can change the fonts. If I want to change all the fonts to font 12, all the fonts are now font 12 on all the charts. Change it to 10, all of them are 10. If I just want to change the data labels or the titles, let's say the titles to 14. Now the titles are changed. So you can play around with these if you want to change the data labels. This is the comments. I can change these to really small or really large. Just play around with this, and it's an easier way to format all of your curves. Now that I've got my wall chart built the way that I want it, one thing I might want to do is rescale. So here, let's go to click that one. I want to scale chart. Select the chart that I want to scale. Hit populate values. It brings up the scaling for this chart. Let's say instead of 1 to 200, I want 1 to 200 with a 50-foot increment or a 25-foot increment. Now I want it to be at 100 foot, and so on. I can play around with that. You can move the chart, and you can zoom in and out. You can also, if you want to just auto scale it, let's say your chart looks like this, you just click up here and select the curve that you want to zoom in on, and it'll zoom in properly to that curve. If you do if you change the X max or Y max up here, it could change the size of your plot. So let's do that. Rescale. So now I'm out of zoom and plain black. So just play around with that, with the scaling, and you'll get an idea of how you can rescale your charts to fit and look the way that you want them to look on your wall chart. Again, to resize it, just select the chart and use the width to fit it on there. Now the wall chart's looking pretty good. What I want to do is print it out. I can go here, I can either PDF page, which will print only this one, or I can go to PDF report. I typically use PDF report, even if I'm just printing the wall plot. Hit print, let it compile, and then open. And now I have my wall chart in PDF format that I can print to any scale. If you want to, you can print this directly to the plotter as it is, or you can use the further prints. Here you can print it from PDF to a different scale if you want to. So right here it's showing it's an 8.5 by 11 print, or I can print it to different size. You can play around with your prints here. This is how I make my wall plots, is I'll print it here first to a 13 by 20 print, and then blow it up so it looks very nice on my wall plots. If you have any questions, please call Eric Trant at 214-250-6854, or check the website, trantlogistics.com, or email me, Eric, E-R-I-C, at trantlogistics.com. Thank you.